It has been 218 days since the last game of college football has been played here in the 2KU. Teams have been itching to get back on the gridiron once again and prove themselves on the national stage. And just around the corner is that time. Hello, everybody, once again. Welcome back to the 2KU for the 2020 season, the 2023 season, which officially kicks off here on the first episode of 2KU Weekly, a brand new format, the 2K Weekly podcast, similar to our 2K Weekly show, specifically in audio form for you. So you can just put this on in the background and enjoy. Hello, I'm TaipeiJoey101, the founder and main brain behind 2KU. Alongside me here today is the official analyst, Danny V, and the face of CASN and fellow collaborator, DaPigbear. Welcome, everybody. How are you two doing?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm excited for this season. It's going to be a fun season. We got a lot of big matchups, and it'll be very big for us.
All right, Pigbear, how are you?
Name's Danny. Excited to be back. Long off season, too much time, and let's go, baby. Football is back.
We're great to see you guys. Happy to see you people watching at home. Let's get started with our outlines that we're going to be talking about here. We have a lot of interesting things to mention. We're going to start with our storylines going into the season. We each have a couple. I'll start off with the ones I want to focus on. The current best team in the nation, as was polled, is not the reigning national champion, Boise State. They lost a lot of key talent to the NFL draft after the 2022 championship. But nonetheless, they have a big chance to return to the limelight this season. The number one team, however, is actually Oklahoma State, who had a very disappointing end to their season, losing in the Big 12 championship in double overtime to Colorado. They're hoping to right the ship this year and finally get over the hump in a Big 12 that will no longer have divisions, as we'll mention later. Meanwhile, a big transfer, one of the biggest this season, Oregon quarterback Mark Buchanan, he started the season for an injured Andrew Burnett, is transferring this year. The most high-profile transfer we've seen in a while. He's moving to the Big Ten. He's playing for Wisconsin, a move that's helped their odds to make the Big Ten championship. On that topic, I'm going to move to Pigbear, who has another big transfer he wants to talk about.
Yes, I'd like to talk about Clemson transfer quarterback. Let me get his name up here. Sorry.
Just Travis Heller.
Travis Heller. Sorry, just transferring from Black Hills State. Yeah, Black Hills State. Can he be the man to lead the Tigers back to the promised land? There's a lot of buzz around Clemson saying they are the second. Virginia Tech, obviously, the favorite to win the ACC. Right behind them is Clemson. And if they can get over the hump, beating North Carolina and beating Virginia Tech in the regular season, or if they lose, they have another, and they beat North Carolina and everything else pans out well, they have another shot at them in Charlotte. Can he lead the Tigers back to the promised land?
Yeah. Travis Heller, a bit more context for you, was a huge profile transfer from Black Hills State. He was setting records behind the gun there. He currently is on the hunt to become the all-time NCAA leader for passing yards in a college career. We'll move on to Danny for some more headlines this season. Danny?
Yeah, so we have a bunch of things, like including just not one, but only a new FBS conference. Welcome to the group, the American Athletic Conference, with several teams coming up from the FCS, including Austin Peay, Eastern Kentucky, Kennesaw State, North Alabama, Tarleton, and Utah Tech, all joining the fray.
Utah Tech and former defect Southern Utah will be joining the Missouri Valley from their respective conferences. The Mountain West losing quite a few teams as Eastern Washington, Montana, and Southern Utah left. Montana going back to the FCS. Eastern Washington will be returning in 2024, but they'll be playing as an independent in the FCS in 2023. And Southern Utah will stay in the FBS with a move to the Missouri Valley. We have another huge headline here, namely a big scandal surrounding the SEC and namely the University of Alabama. The Crimson Tide will be ineligible for the postseason. Their wins of the 2023 season will be vacated following a collusion scandal during the 2022 Music City Bowl against Florida State. as well as alleged threats sent to the University of South Carolina, who was to join the conference. However, that fell through, and they're expected to re-sign with the ACC in 2024. PaipJoey, you have more on that?
Yes, so the call was the Gamecocks were going to go to the SEC from the ACC. You know, bigger well, both conferences are really big conferences, but bigger conference, more money. And apparently, Alabama AD sent a letter to University of South Carolina threatening them. So they said, we're withholding our bid, we'll stay in the ACC. This is going to my view now is how will Alabama respond to this? This obviously going to hurt them, but do they take this saying, oh, we can't win the national championship, let's go beat the crap out of everybody? How do they respond?
Yeah, it's going to be a big issue that they'll have to face. Moving on to the postseason, there are some new bowl games this season corresponding with the new conference. Danny, if you want to give the rundown.
Yeah, we got ourselves the brand new Eagle Bank Bowl located in Washington, D.C., being played in the soccer stadium up there. We also have the Dollar General Bowl, which is taking place in Mississippi. They're going to take place in the same city as Southern Miss. And also, just for this year, the Medal of Honor Bowl that's going to take place in South Carolina, where the Citadel plays.
Mm-hmm. We're going to move on now here. We're going to be talking about all the changes that happened this season. We'll be talking about what happens next season after the fact, but we're going to quickly take a look at your favorites to win each conference. We'll start with the ACC. Currently sitting on top is Virginia Tech. Very much a favorite. They won the last 3 conference championships, and there might be alarms ringing if Virginia Tech runs away with another one this year. However, the field seems to be stronger than before. North Carolina and Clemson are the next 2 up. It's kind of varied between who's who on the favorites to be second in that regard. On our polls, we had Clemson sitting second, North Carolina third, followed by Florida State, Maryland, South Carolina, then Miami, Virginia, and beyond that point, there's not really any big odds. The favorite's Virginia Tech, and I'm going to go with the field. I'm going to say Virginia Tech has done something that hasn't been done since Oklahoma in the 60s, and that is win 4 straight conference championships. Danny?
Yeah, I do think Virginia Tech is going to win this, but I do think maybe Clemson might be the dark horse for this conference, with North Carolina and Florida State being contenders as well.
Yeah, PaipJoey, who you got in the ACC?
4 is too many. Go Tigers. Clemson wins the conference.
Mm-hmm. We're going to move on to that brand new conference now. The American Athletic Conference playing its first games this season. Its main backbone is founded on teams that were already in the FBS alongside a bunch of FCS schools. Charlotte is the favorite right now by an overwhelming margin to win the conference. They came from the Big East along with Delaware. Kennesaw State, the reigning FCS champions, are sitting in second, followed by Jacksonville State playing their first year of FBS ball officially this season after the transition year in 2021, or 2022 rather. Eastern Kentucky is fourth there. Delaware, Austin Peay, North Alabama, and Tarleton round out the field of this conference. My favorite pick here, I think I'm going with the Charlotte 49ers. They are probably the best team by a wide margin. Danny, your thoughts?
I do think Charlotte's going to win it, but however, don't count out Delaware. Delaware came with Charlotte from the Big East, and I think Delaware might pull off a bit of a surprise or two from time to time.
PaipJoey.
You know, I agree with Danny on the Delaware. I'm a little bit on the fence, but I think just Charlotte's too much to match for the conference. Go Niners.
All right, to the Big East, a big shakeup after big shakeup has happened this offseason. UMass losing its quarterback and head coach to transfers and rehirings. UConn remains the favorite. They did not win the conference last year, though. That went to Temple. They're by far the favorite, but they are expected to fall off in wins. They finished 12-2 last year. The experts don't have them doing that again. Rutgers is second after moving divisions, followed by West Virginia, Temple, Syracuse, UMass, Pittsburgh, and Boston College are the teams said to be in the hunt for the conference title. Danny?
Yeah, I do think UConn will be the one to most likely win it. Rutgers, they're going to be bouncing in between divisions both this year and next year, which we'll explain a little bit later. But I do think UConn will definitely win it with potentially Rutgers doing a run or two.
Mm-hmm. As for myself, I think there's a dark horse that a lot of people aren't considering, and I think that dark horse is Syracuse. They kind of flew under the radar last year. They had a bit of an off year, but I think Syracuse has the momentum to pick themselves back up and regain control of a division they've been wanting to claim for a long time. Pig Bear, who do you have in the Big East?
Stole my pick. I guess since you stole my pick, I'll go with my runner-up. But I think this team also another dark horse. Give me the West Virginia Mountaineers.
All right,
There's
Big East.
When you think of Big East football, I think of West Virginia,
Mm-hmm.
at least historically. But yeah, I think the Mountaineers will get it done.
This conference still wide for the taking. We're going to move on to the Big Ten Conference. For the first time this season since 2010, no divisions in the Big Ten. They've been playing under the Leaders and Legends systems since 2011. They drop it this year, and it'll just be the top two teams playing for the conference championship. The favorites are Michigan to get the title. Following that up, Illinois, who had a disappointing year last year, falling just short of a conference title, losing to Michigan State. After that, Notre Dame has an impressive position up there. How about Wisconsin? A big riser on the standings. Ohio State follows them out. Penn State, reigning champions Michigan State are all the way back there. Indiana hanging on to some odds, but it's unlikely for them. And the conference rounds up with Iowa, Northwestern, Purdue, and Minnesota. I think the Wolverines are the big favorites in this conference. I think Illinois might come off a down year with a lot of big losses in the draft. I think Michigan's gotten stronger this season than they were before. If I had to pick a dark horse, though, I'm liking Wisconsin. I think the Badgers might play for that title, but I think the Wolverines get it in the end. Danny?
Yeah, give me, as much as I like to say Michigan, but we have projected them to win the conference for the past few years, and they still haven't won it yet. So they might be hungry for that, but I do think they'll most likely win it. But give me Wisconsin or either Penn State, dark horse for the conference.
All right, Pig Bear.
They play next weekend. Never count them out. Give me Notre Dame. Insane dark horse.
Notre Dame had a big underdog run in some huge wins, including a win at Michigan. The Wolverines come to South Bend to play them this season. Keep an eye on that game. Much like the Big Ten, the Big 12 is dropping divisions next season. The current favorites are, of course, Oklahoma State, the AP number 1. We'll get to the top 25 later. Following that out is Baylor at second. Colorado, the reigning conference champions, are sitting at third. They're expected to have a big season as well. Kansas State and Texas are up there, followed by Missouri, Oklahoma, Nebraska, and Kansas, holding on to a very slim odds there. Texas A&M, Texas Tech, and Iowa State are expected not to have a chance in this conference. Oklahoma State is by far the favorites, and I got to go with the Cowpokes to take this conference and potentially play for a natty. Danny?
Give me Oklahoma State. They are definitely going to win big, and they're going to be number 1. But for my number 2, I'm going to say potentially Missouri. They look like they are very hungry to win, and they look like they could potentially do a run.
Big Bear.
Give me a weird pick here. Give me the Baylor Bears.
All right.
I think they play divisions or no divisions. My bad.
No divisions this season.
No division.
Yeah. They play Oklahoma State in not in the national, the conference championship. Excuse me, sorry, I dozed off for a second. They play Oklahoma State, and Oklahoma State's perfect up until then, and then Baylor comes out and shocks them. Baylor.
All right. Move on to the Conference USA, which is going to have a massive overhaul next season. This is the final year. It'll be in this format. And the favorite this year is the team who's just kept winning. Riding off a 10-game win streak to end the year. An 11-game win streak to end the year. UCF is favored to take the conference. They are the favorites of the East Division. The West Division favorites are Houston. Following that up in the odds, Louisville, Cincinnati from the east, Memphis and Arkansas from the west, UAB wrapping up the heavy favorites. Southern Miss is surprisingly not that high. They're expected to fall off quite a bit this year. We have some new developments in this conference as Tulsa from the WAC and the former Independence Liberty will be joining the conference in 2023 and beyond. I'm picking the Knights to take this conference. Houston right behind them. I think that'll be a close game to watch. Danny, who do you have?
I mean, the Knights, they are looking strong. They have kept a lot of their talent. They have a very favorable schedule, and very importantly, they are excited to join a new path next season, which we'll explain in a little bit. But if I'm going to pick another team, give me Memphis, and they have a big chance of doing it.
All right, Pig Bear?
Us versus the world is what they should be saying in Hattiesburg right now. And that mentality carries them to another conference, to a conference championship. Give me Southern Miss.
All right. We'll briefly touch on the independents. No championships to discuss. But Army, expected to have 11 wins on the year as projected. Colgate and Holy Cross are expected to have bowl eligibility potentially. And Dave's show is not too far ahead of them. Expected with a very tough schedule, the Truckers are projected to have 7 wins on the year. A step back, but they want to prove that their new home that we'll discuss later is worth it to them. We'll move on to the Ivy League. Columbia, still runaway favorites, though not as much as they were last year. They're the first team since 2002 in the Ivy League to get to 10 wins. A huge surprise that it hasn't happened that much. Though then again, looking at how tightly knit this conference has been in the past, it shouldn't come off as that much of a surprise. Harvard and Yale, the typical teams, follow them up. Brown in 4th, followed by Princeton, Dartmouth, Cornell, and Penn. Give me the Lions to repeat as conference champs. Danny?
Yeah, give me Columbia to win it again. I mean, I believe they are the best out of the Ivy League, but that's not really saying much because it's the Ivy League and they are usually very balanced, but I do think Columbia will win it.
All right, Pig Bear?
Easy pick, Columbia.
All right. Like the enthusiasm. To the MAC we go now. Now, once again, I believe this is the 4th straight year it's happened. Northern Illinois, the onset favorites. However, in that span, they've only won 1 title in the conference. That 14-0 2021 season is the only time they've won it under their current head coach. They want to right that wrong. Central Michigan, though, the reigning division champs, are second. The reigning conference champs, Ohio, not projected to even make the Bulls this season. This has to do with a division that is expected to catch up to them this year. As third on that poll is Miami, Ohio, followed by Eastern Michigan, Kent State, then Ohio, Marshall, Toledo, Bowling Green, Akron, Buffalo, Youngstown State, Western Michigan, and Ball State wrapping up the standings. I think Northern Illinois is the easy pick for everyone. However, I think that there is a dark horse, and its name is Eastern Michigan. We saw them playing with hunger last season in a late year struggle against Northern Illinois. They lost that game, but the point has been made. This team will fight to the end. I think the Factory wins the conference in a conference title game, potentially over what I would believe to be Marshall. Danny?
Yeah, for me, I'm definitely do think Northern Illinois will most likely win it, but I also have a good feeling in Central Michigan. I think they have a good chance of maybe knocking off the Huskies again.
All right, Pig Bear?
Just give me Northern Illinois.
All right. To the Missouri Valley. Disaster would be an understatement to describe the Missouri Valley season last year. And rightfully so, the conference has once again undergone another shakeup. In this case, a new divisional format. Nonetheless, North Dakota State still the favorites and followed not too far behind by Northern Iowa and the rest of the Dakotas, South Dakota State and South Dakota. North Dakota not playing in the FBS this season. They're returning to the FCS along with Montana and Nebraska. Omaha. Chicago will be staying, though. and they're expected to have a much better year this season. They finished fifth. They finished fifth. Pardon me, on the overall standings. Southern Illinois, though, is not too far off. They're expected to win the East Division. I think with this power gap currently forming, I think the Salukis managed to get a grip and keep it close. But give me North Dakota State to repeat as conference champs, Danny.
Yeah. Well, for me, give me North Dakota State to win it again. I think that they have a good chance of winning it. But this conference is so balanced that it's hard to choose one to win it.
All right, Pig Bear.
Give me the Dogs. Give me the Salukis.
Southern Illinois. We move on to the Mountain West. A smaller Mountain West. A second-time national champion Mountain West, thanks to current favorites and top team reigning national champs Boise State are the favorites in the conference, but still do not write them off. This conference is still anybody's for the taking. TCU, Hungry, right behind them. San Diego State and Utah, they'll be off to the Pac-10 next year. They want to get a title in the door before they head out. BYU is hungry as well. They've got a date with the Big 12 lined up next year. This is one of the best years to be a Mountain West school I think you could have asked for. Even teams like UNLV and Wyoming aren't too far off. Wyoming played in the conference championship game last year against Boise.
Pax West.
I think
Pax Mountain West Kana. Pax.
I think ultimately it comes down to that big game in Boise in the year. TCU, Boise State. Whoever wins that game takes the conference championship. And without divisions, the top two teams will face each other. So I think we might see that matchup twice. Give me Boise to win in the regular season, but I think the Horned Frogs get it done in the conference championship game. Give me TCU. Danny?
I think TCU to win the conference. They look hungry. They look like they have a lot of momentum going in. They got a very big schedule, but San Diego State might be a little bit of a dark horse. Same thing with Utah.
All right, Pig Bear.
I'm gonna go complete opposite direction, 180 from y'all. Again, team leaving for the Big 12.
You're picking BYU to take
BYU. That's one team I think they'll get in the final. But they made it last year. They fell to the national champions. Give me a insane dark horse pick. Wyoming. Go Cowboys.
That is insane. That is quite insane. We'll move on now to the Pac-10. The last year it'll be the Pac-10. They're welcoming two teams in. Well, it's safe to say more stable than in real life, at least. They got a team in the national championship last year in USC. That was a surprise pick that no one really had at the start of the year. The Trojans sit second on the rankings. Stanford is the current number one. Oregon, though, in third is an easy pick for someone to make. Washington, Oregon State, Washington State, and Arizona State are in the conversation as dark horse candidates. Give me the Ducks, actually, to win it. With Burnett back in center, Terrence Noel is back in. This team is locked and loaded once again and primed to return to the glory they got so close to having in 2021. Danny, who are you taking?
Give me Oregon. I think they have a really good chance of winning it. They might be underlooked based on everyone else in the comments, but I think they could really do it. But also don't count out Washington. They could maybe do an upset or two.
All right. Pig Bear?
As you alluded to, in real life, this team could well be taking trips to Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and Blacksburg, Virginia, decently soon. Give me the Stanford Cardinal.
Mm-hmm. Now we move on to the SEC. It is ironic to say how bad an offseason the Missouri Valley had while the Mountain West or while the SEC is right here. It may not look it, but this conference is in danger. They had a fine year on paper. However, if you take a look at all the moves that happened in the offseason and how the quality of play has been shaky in the SEC, their alarm bells are ringing, especially when Georgia Tech threatened to leave for the ACC in 2024. However, the the conference managed to smooth things out for now. Alabama, the one team not eligible for the conference, we'll skip over them. They are expected to post 9 wins on the year, though. Georgia Tech and LSU, the teams who played last year, sit as the favorites. LSU has the slight edge. Auburn and Florida expected to pick up in wins. Georgia is up there as well. Tennessee and Tulane are expected to have good years on it. The team might win their 3rd straight title in the SEC. I think LSU is the best team in the conference. They managed to beat Georgia Tech in Atlanta not once but twice last season. I think whatever Matt Muse was cooking up in Atlanta, LSU has a secret ingredient to take them down. Give me the Tigers. Danny?
Give me Georgia Tech to actually win it. I'm going to pick the Yellow Jackets to win it. They have a lot of returning talent, and they might be hungry because losing LSU twice last season was not a really good taste in their mouth.
All right. Pig Bear?
You know me, I like my dark horses, and let me give you one up on Rocky Top. Their rival, Alabama, they don't have to worry as much about them. They're going to be played by 10. They can take the momentum by beating them, and they can continue on and win the SEC. Give me Tennessee.
Tennessee. Move to the SoCon. A big shakeup will happen next year. Appalachian State and Georgia Southern, rather, will be leaving for the SEC, or the Sun Belt, rather.
The SEC,
They'll be
the first North Carolina member.
App State, Georgia Southern leaving for the Sun Belt in 2023, after 2023. They both sit as the favorites once again. There's a reason why they're moving up to a supposedly higher conference. They have been dominant over the last couple decades. William & Mary, though, had a strong showing last season, and they are sitting 3rd. James Madison and Old Dominion expected to pick up in wins next year. Richmond wrapping up the teams predicted to be bowl eligible in 2023. I think that Georgia State and Appalachian State are the top 2 picks, though I am going to be a bit unconventional. I think James Madison. I liked what I saw from them last season. I think they might have something behind the scenes that they could do, and that completely unravels the defenses here for App State and Georgia Southern, which have been historically dominant. I think the Dukes are my favorites as a dark horse to win the conference. Danny?
Give me App State to win the conference. I know this is their final year, but definitely do think that James Madison will win North and could give App State a run for them.
All right, Pig Bear.
App State versus William & Mary again, and App gets that wasn't the championship, if I'm not mistaken. Was that?
It was Georgia Southern over William & Mary.
State versus William & Mary. Yeah, they play in the regular season. That's how William & Mary got big. They beat App.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, App State gets their revenge. They don't mean the regular season, do they?
I believe they do.
Okay.
What did he ask, Pigbear?
Appalachian State versus William & Mary. CA Sports difficulty.
They do not play in the regular season.
Okay, so App gets their revenge in Nashville from last year. They get and getting down the high.
Now we move to the Southland Conference. A lot of buzz spawned from this conference after Stephen F. Austin went undefeated in the regular season, won their conference, or only barely, over a 7-win Southeastern Louisiana. They played in the Fiesta Bowl, got completely rocked by TCU, and now they have an invitation for the WAC next season. So this will be their last year, along with Sam Houston's last year as Southland members. The favorites right now are both Sam Houston and Stephen F. Austin to lead the conference on top. Following them out is Houston Baptist, Southeastern Louisiana, and McNeese State. Central Arkansas, in their first year of eligibility, is expected to pick up a winning season. Nichols is up there. Abilene Christian and Incarnate Word, 2 new teams for this year. I think they have a lot of optimism in their camps, though still this conference remains the Stephen F. and Sam Houston show. I think these two are by far the best in the conference. And I think it is the Lumberjacks who will be repeating as conference champions. Danny?
Give me the Bearcats to win it. I believe they're going to play against each other first in Houston the final weekend, and they're going to play against each other in San Antonio the weekend after. I'm going to think Sam Houston State's going to win it.
All right, Pig Bear.
Yeah, give me Sam Houston State.
Now we move to the Sun Belt Conference. They'll have a slight shakeup next year, nothing drastic in their camp, especially after the absolute rocking Coastal took in the conference championship game last year against North Texas, who remained the favorites to win the conference this year. The Mean Green will be moving to the WAC next season, so Coastal potentially could be a favorite for the future, but FAU right behind them once again. Louisiana, FIU, Troy, and Middle Tennessee and Western Kentucky are the teams expected to have winning seasons this year. I think North Texas is an opener. An opening pick. I think they win the West. Give me Florida Atlantic, though, to win the conference overall. Danny?
Yeah, give me FAU to win it as well. But I think for a little surprise team, give me FIU. I think they have a good chance of being a little sleeper team for teams.
All right. Pig Bear?
North Texas repeats.
All right. No hesitation on your pick. One more conference before we move on. The WAC. They'll be adding some new teams, but saying goodbye to some teams as well. Cullen Payton, the 2KU exclusive team, will be moving to the Independents next season. Meanwhile, Nevada and Fresno State accepting bids to the Mountain West after being WAC members for over 25 years. The conference will be welcoming Stephen F. Austin, UTEP, and Stephen F. Austin, Tarleton, as well as North Texas and Sam Houston. Also leaving the conference will be UTEP, UTSA, and Texas State, who have new opportunities out in the Conference USA, which we'll talk about in a moment. Meanwhile, the favorite in the conference is New Mexico State. They have a pretty favorable schedule, aside from that one game, which we'll get to. They're expected to win the conference. Nevada is second, reigning conference champs. Idaho are third, followed by Hawaii, San Jose State, UTSA, Fresno State, and Texas State. And CSU Fullerton expected to pick up some wins. Long Beach State, the surprise story from this conference last year, not expected to make a bowl game this season, though. I think the Aggies are a quick pick. I think New Mexico State wins the Mountain once again. And I think as for the Pacific Division, I'm feeling Nevada wins it one more time to end the year. Danny?
Yeah, give me Nevada to win it. I think they have a really good chance of winning it. They also have a lot of momentum behind them, and they're looking forward to next season.
All right, Pig Bear.
I agree. Give me Nevada, Reno.
All right. We now move on from this point. We're going to take a look at our top 25 for this season. The preseason top 25 has been super anticipated. Before we do, I want to remind you guys to join the TaipeiJoey101 Discord server, where you can find all of the 2KU headlines as they happen, including the top 25 each week. And we're going to start with our preseason top 25. We're going to do it differently than we usually do. Normally we read it from number 1 going down. This week we're going to read it from 25 going up. We're going to start at number 25 with Stephen F. Austin. The Lumberjacks finished 13-1 last season and are holding on to a preseason top 25 berth. Number 24, Northern Illinois, 12-1 last year with a Little Caesars Pizza Bowl win over Notre Dame. They had a huge comeback in that game, and they're expected to do well. Number 23, Oregon State. The Beavers had a surprising year last season. And following that, number 22, Clemson, one of the teams who grew the most after the offseason. And 21 is Memphis, the runner-up in the Conference USA. Moving to the top 20, New Mexico State. Out of the WAC, Georgia from the SEC. Temple and UConn, the top teams in the Big East. And number 16, North Carolina, the runner-up in the ACC. Into the top 15, number 15 is Oregon, a big riser after the 2023 or after the 2022 season. Number 14 is Baylor. Number 13, UCF. Rose quite a bit. Number 12 is Michigan State. Number 11, we have Colorado. And now we enter our top 10. Number 10, Michigan. Number 9, Stanford. Number 8, LSU. Number 7, Illinois. Number 6, TCU. Number 5, national runner-ups last year, USC. Number 4, Number 4, Georgia Tech. Number 3 is Boise State, the reigning national champs. Number 2, Virginia Tech. And number 1 in the preseason polls is Oklahoma State. Other receiving votes in descending order: Ohio State, Houston, Notre Dame, Idaho, Florida, Penn State, Florida State, Washington, Louisville, Missouri, Alabama, BYU, Central Michigan, Maryland, San Diego State, Kansas State, Rutgers, Utah, and Nevada. All right. Anything else you want to share before we get to our discussions, guys?
Nope, we did a really good job ranking these teams, and I expect a lot of shakeup potentially this year, but we have to really see. I could see some teams ranked in the top 25 dropping. I could see some teams receiving votes going up.
All right. Not a lot of games to discuss this week, but we do have some interesting matchups for you. We're going to start our Week 0 matchups with the game that'll kick us off, the Seminole War Canoe Trophy, as well as the Camping World Kickoff. Miami taking on Florida in Orlando. Both of these teams had pretty lackluster years last year. Hopefully they expect to rebound this season. Miami, Florida has won the last 4 matchups against the Gators. They won 52-30 last season. Florida expected to pick up their eyeing the first SEC championship since 2016. The Gators are favored by 6.5. What do you guys have picked in this game?
And for me, I believe that Miami, they have won in the past few years, including last year, but they won 50-30. I think Miami wins it again.
All right, Pig Bear?
Give me Florida.
All right. We move now from Orlando to Dublin. Probably the biggest culture shock you could possibly have. A rivalry that doesn't necessarily have a name, I don't think, but Notre Dame heading to the motherland of Ireland to take on Navy. Notre Dame, an interesting stat, they are 19-4 since 2000 against the Midshipmen. Their last loss was in 2015, and they won last year 44-28. Navy's last win as an underdog of more than 10 points, though, is not that long ago. It was only last year in their final game of the regular season against Army when they won one of those games. They are over 10-point underdogs. Notre Dame is favored by 10.5. All right, who are you guys picking?
Give me the Irish. The Irish still think they're going to have a big year this year, and I'm sure they want to start off with a big win.
All right, Pig Bear?
Irish plus the points.
All right. Moving on to the arch rivalry. Last year was played in St. Louis. This year it will be on campus. The Missouri Tigers taking on the number 7 Illinois Fighting Illini. Illinois favored by 15.5. Last time they met was in St. Louis. The Illini won 20-10. Missouri's last win against the Illini came in 2019. I'm going to take the points here by quite a bit. What are you guys thinking?
Give me Illinois to win it. They're going to have a really big win, and I believe Illinois might shock a team or two.
All right, Pig Bear?
Yeah, give me Illinois, too.
From Champaign to Jerry World, we move now to Arlington, Texas for the Southwest Classic between Arkansas and Texas A&M. Arkansas, this is their final year as a Conference USA member. They'll be looking towards the SEC next year. We'll talk about that in a second. Meanwhile, Texas A&M won the last matchup between these two teams, 31-13. Texas A&M is favored by 13 to win this matchup. Danny, who do you have?
Give me Texas A&M. I believe Texas A&M, they have a lot more to prove than Arkansas. And also, Texas A&M really needs a lot of the wins because they have a tough stretch going to conference play. So, give me the Aggies.
All right, Pig Bear, who do you have?
Gig 'em.
Gig 'em Aggies. Now we move to Montgomery, Alabama, the Guardian FCS kickoff game between Prairie View A&M and East Tennessee State. Prairie View favored by 3.5. The Panthers have played in the last 3 SWAC played in the last 2 SWAC title games. They are favorites to return to the podium in 2023. They are the 2021 champs. They lost in the conference championship last season to Southern. I think Prairie View a big favorite. I'm going to pick them closer than you'd think. Even closer than this 3.5 point spread would indicate. Pig Bear?
Yeah, give me Prairie View.
All right, Danny?
Yeah, I do think Prairie View A&M is going to win it, but don't be surprised if Eastern Tennessee shocks them.
In a newly blossoming rivalry, we head to Boca Raton. USF taking on FAU. There was nearly thoughts that the Owls and Panthers would join the Conference USA next season. However, that ended up not happening. Plus, USF will be moving to the Big East next season in 2024. FAU's last meeting with the Bulls came in 2021. It was the Bulls that won 29-20. However, FAU this season is favored by 7. Who do you guys have?
Give me the Owls. I believe the Owls are going to win it big, but it's going to be a little bit close. It's going to be a shootout game.
All right, Pig Bear?
Give me the Owls, too. Yeah.
All right. The MEAC SWAC kickoff in Atlanta follows that up. The Bethune-Cookman Tigers of the MEAC taking on, or Bethune-Cookman Wildcats of the MEAC taking on the Tuskegee Golden Tigers of the SWAC. Bethune-Cookman looking to win their first MEAC title since 2010. Meanwhile, Tuskegee in their second year as a Division I member at all. Last year they ended up 1-11 through the SWAC. The Bethune-Cookman Wildcats are favored by 14. Who do you guys have?
Give me Bethune-Cookman. I think they're going to perform big, but this right here is kind of like a little bit of a smaller matchup, but I do think Bethune-Cookman's going to win it.
All right, Pig Bear?
Bethune-Cookman destroys them. I'm sorry. Plus the points.
Now we're going to move back to the FBS for another big matchup. Our first matchup, another ACC-SEC matchup, rather. Kentucky heading to South Carolina. South Carolina has had a bit of a drought of success for themselves. The last time the Gamecocks played in the the ACC championship was when they won it over North Carolina in 2013. That was over 10 years ago at this point. Meanwhile, Kentucky, they've had to wait a little longer. They haven't won the SEC since 1963. That is the third longest drought in the SEC. Only Vanderbilt and Mississippi State have had to wait longer since 1953 and 1946, respectively. The points favor South Carolina by 13.5. Who do you guys have?
I think South Carolina's going to win it. They're going to throw the ball far, and I think they're going to be very physical with it.
All right, Pig Bear.
Which it pains me to say it, South Carolina's going to win.
All right. We now move to Kent, Ohio. The Kent State Golden Flashes hosting the Kennesaw State Owls. Kennesaw, this is their first game as an FBS member, as we mentioned. They're part of the American Athletic Conference. They are the reigning FCS Conference champions. As for Kent State, they last won the MAC in 2013, though the points favor Kent by 14.5. I don't think it's going to be as much as those points say. Danny?
Give me Kennesaw to win it. I think I have more faith in the Owls, and I think they're going to maybe show why they deserve to be in the FBS.
This has your markings of a typical trap game, Pig Bear?
Yeah. Kent State, complete blowout. I see them avoiding the trap.
All right. Some very late night action for the 9th Island Showdown. UNLV taking on Hawaii, the Rebels. Having a lot of optimism this year after a surprise 500 season last year. They last won the Mountain West in 2002. Hawaii, though, they have themselves some claims to fame. They are 5-1 against UNLV since 2013. The points favor Hawaii by 10. Danny?
Give me Hawaii to win it. They are, of course, playing at Hawaii, which is a notorious place for anyone to play at. And I believe Hawaii is looking a lot better than UNLV. They'll
All right,
win the
Pig
Golden
Bear.
Pineapple.
Pig Bear.
Hawaii.
All right. Staying in the Mountain West, New Mexico and Air Force playing the first in-conference game for the Mountain West. New Mexico, interesting trivia fact, has never won the Mountain West since it formed in 1999. In their last championships, you'd have to look back to when they were in the WAC. As for Air Force, they hold the current Commander-in-Chief's trophy. The last time these two schools met was in 2021. The Falcons won 14-13. Regardless, the points favor New Mexico by 6.5. Danny?
It's going to be really tough, but I think Air Force is going to win it. I mean, they did play a really close game the last time they played, but I think Air Force playing at home will win it for them.
All right, Pig Bear?
Give me Air Force.
All right. We'll come back to some other games in a moment, including our game of the week this week that we'll be playing on stream. But let's head to talk about our big story today. The conference realignment cycle has been insane over this summer in 2023 for the 24 season. This starts all the way back in 2022 with the American Athletics Conferences forming. Charlotte and Delaware and Jacksonville State were already FBS members, but they are joined by FCS members Kennesaw, Eastern Kentucky, Austin Peay, North Alabama, and Tarleton. On April 13th of this year, the first domino fell as Holy Cross and Colgate, current independents, moved to the AAC for 2024. Then the first major pillar to fall was Arkansas and South Carolina accepting bids to the SEC, though only Arkansas would end up staying, as only a few days later, South Carolina withdrew their bid. As for the next day, Rhode Island joins the American. Boston College accepts a bid to the ACC alongside a team we'll mention shortly. Meanwhile, the Big East now has room, and they take the biggest heist I think we've ever seen. UCF, Cincinnati, Louisville, and South Florida all leave the Conference USA for the Big East in 2024. That same day, Utah and San Diego State accept Pac-10 bids, meaning that the conference for the first time will undergo a name change. For the first time since the 1950s, they're going to become the Pac-12 in 2024.
Has a nice ring to it.
The Conference USA quickly scrambling. They'll pick up Marshall, Texas State, UTEP, UTSA, and Youngstown State for that 2024 season. On April 17th, Houston and SMU accepted Big 12 bids. Houston will be keeping theirs. There'll be a Big 12 team in 2024. Dave's show, the Truckers officially making a move to a major conference. They have been a member of the FBS since 2003. They'll be joining the ACC in 2024. On April 19th, Fresno and Nevada accepted Mountain West bids. Meanwhile, North Texas, Sam Houston, Stephen F. Austin, and Tarleton joined the WAC in 2024. As it was confirmed that day, on April 20th, Appalachian State, Georgia Southern, and Jacksonville State all collectively joined the Sun Belt Conference for that season. Davidson and Wofford, in response, accepted bids for 2024 to join the SoCon. On April 28th, Not the Experts UGF Pandas were announced to be moving up to the FBS as an independent, as they will be joined by Cullen Payton in the independents that day. We waited a little bit until June the 27th. Eastern Washington announced a return to the Mountain West in 2024. They announced that they would be undoing their Big Sky berths that they had promised, and instead they will be playing as an FCS independent this season before rejoining the Mountain West in 2024. And then the last bit of news came just last month in July. BYU and SMU swapping spots in a team swap between the Mountain West and the Big 12. Of the SMU Mustangs will be joining the Mountain West. Meanwhile, the BYU Cougars joined the Big 12. As that wraps up conference realignment, what are your big takeaways from this, Danny?
If you're going to talk about any conference that was a winner, it would have to become the Big East. But they almost like it wasn't going to be because there was like a breakdown in relationships between them and the A10 that could have also led to potential leaving of UMass and Temple, but they decided to stay. And man, did they add in 4 teams that replace the 2 that are leaving, and the losers definitely Conference USA. Sorry, but you lost over half your conference.
I think a big winner that might go unnoticed, the Mountain West, is officially staking their claim as a next step power conference, potentially in the wake of the Conference USA taking a spot that they could have claimed as being the next power conference that wasn't right behind the Big East. It definitely helps that they have a national championship under their belts in recent memory with Boise State. PigBear, what are your takeaways from the realignment?
Big winner, not talked about ACC. Boston College, Dave Show, and you're holding on to South Carolina, most likely.
All right, I believe that does it for us. We have one more game that we'll be talking about. Our game of the week next week. Saturday, August 27th, or Saturday, August 26th, the first game of the 2KU played on stream. A ranked matchup between 2 top 25 squads. Number 20 New Mexico State and number 24 NIU heading to Vegas for the Good Sam kickoff game. These two of the most successful teams of this new decade. New Mexico State is 12-0 in regular season non-conference games since 2020. Head coach Todd Mays is 21-3 overall on the road or in regular season non-conference games since getting hired in 2017. Northern Illinois, though, even more successful, you could argue, sitting second across the entire FBS in records since in the 2020 so far. They are 38-3 since starting the season in 2020. Only Boise State has a better overall record. The points favor New Mexico State by 4.5. And I'm going to have to pick the Aggies as well. I think New Mexico State has a huge claim to stake as a BCS buster this season. Danny, who do you pick?
Give me the Aggies. They seem like they are ready to win. They seem like they want to win, and I think New Mexico State will win it big for the WAC.
All right, PigBear, who do you have in this game?
I'm gonna go Northern Illinois.
All right, you're picking Northern Illinois in an upset.
Yeah.
Well, we're just about to wrap up here. Thank you all for watching. Once again, don't forget to tune in on August 26th, this Saturday at 8:30 p.m. EST for our kickoff game, the Good Sam kickoff, New Mexico State and Northern Illinois. That's going to do it for us here today. Thank you all for watching. We're glad to be back. So glad to see football back. And so long from the 2KU.